so much for being here. It's such an exciting time. It's such an important time. Nikki Haley and her husband Michael are dear friends of ours, and Michael is a fellow combat vet, and we're so glad to have Nikki here. And I want to just thank my wife for that incredible introduction. Now the truth is, I believe deeply in term limits, and I would have term limited myself no matter what. But I also got some very specific guidance from my wife on term limiting. You know what I'm saying? So listen, let's start with just some basic questions. Who's ready to retire Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and put Donald Trump in the White House? And what about that guy Dave Sunday? Did you hear him talk? Who's ready to have him be the next Attorney General? We would be lucky to have Dave Sunday. And what about this? Who's ready to send Bob Casey packing and get a new senator? Yeah. We gotta do it, right? We gotta do it. You know, we tell ourselves every election cycle, this is the most important election of your lifetime. We say it over and over again. But I'm here to tell you, this is the most important election of our lifetime, this one right here. Just think about it. And it's not for us. I mean, for us old folks, we got more years behind us than in front of us. This is for our children. This is for our children's children, right? And right now, we're in trouble. You know, when I was thinking, I ran in 2022, I lost by 900 votes. Many of you were my friends and supporters. 1.5 million cast. When you lose by 900 votes, that's a gut check. You know, do you really want to do this? And Dean and I talked to our 6 daughters, and they weren't exactly for it. And by that I mean they were 100% against it. 100%. But every time I went to pick up the phone and move on with our lives, we're almost empty nesters, we got one left in senior in high school, I kept getting pulled back to this moment, which is, if you believe America, greatest country in the world, right? Greatest country for individual freedom, religious freedom, bringing people out of poverty, a force for good in the world. So I believe that. I believe America is exceptional. Dark chapters, to be sure, but a force for good in the world. If you believe you've been blessed by America, which I bet most of you believe, you've been blessed by all that America has to offer. And if you believe America's in trouble, which I do, spiritually, economically, our adversaries around the world testing us, thinking we're weak. And if you believe you can do something about it, which I do, I believe I can win this Senate seat. When I do, I think I'm going to be a voice for getting our country back on track, a leader to help get our country back on track. You got to do it, right? You've got to do it. Because I'm a patriot, you're patriots. We want to save our country, we want to get things back on track. And this election could not be a more clear choice. Couldn't be a more clear choice. At the top of the ticket, it's the choice between strength, the guy you saw on the stage saying fight, 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 and common sense policies. It's common sense to get our economy back on track, stop this crazy spending. It's common sense to open up our incredible energy sector and become energy dominant. It's good for our economy, it's good for our national security, it's good for the environment to have that clean natural gas. It's common sense to secure our borders, stop that flow of illegal immigrants, fentanyl, right? 4,000 people died last year in Pennsylvania for fentanyl. Common sense to bring law and order to our communities, to stand behind the men and women in law enforcement. The one who endorsed me, by the way, switched their endorsement from Bob Casey recently because they know I will have their back. That's common sense. And Kamala Harris is the most liberal, extreme liberal nominee in modern political history. Don't trust me about it. Just look at her in her own words. Ban fracking. Transition energy workers. Legalize illegal immigration. Make sure they get federal benefits. Mandatory buybacks of your guns. Eliminate private health care insurance. Defund the police. These are what she said in her own words. That's the choice. That's the choice, right? But this Senate seat, don't underestimate how important this is. Pennsylvania needs someone who's going to fight and lead in the United States Senate to make sure those policies, common sense, get in place. It's a choice between change and the status quo. It's a choice between a guy who's a 7th generation Pennsylvanian, me, right? Grew up in Bloomsburg, Pennsylvania. My dad was born in Indiana County. My mom was born in Punxsutawney, which reminds me of Punxsutawney Bob, my opponent, right? Punxsutawney Bob comes out every 6 years for 6 months. Makes a lot of noise and goes back in his hole. That's the guy I'm running against, right? So I grew up like that. I think I got unique credibility saying Punxsutawney Bob because my mom's from Punxsutawney, right? So I grew up in Bloomsburg, wrestled, played football, was a busboy, baled hay, trimmed Christmas trees, a paper boy, went to West Point, wrestled, co-captain of the wrestling team, Ranger School, 82nd Airborne Division, combat tour in Iraq, back to Pennsylvania where I helped build a great company and create hundreds of jobs. I've lived the American dream. You learn about Dina. I mean, Dina's incredible. Dina lived the American dream. And I'm running against the guy who was born with a political spoon in his mouth. Right? This is a guy who's been in elected office for 30 years. The Senate for 18 years. And when the bullets start firing, he ducks. This is not someone who's going to stand up against the tide. But he's voted 98.6% of the time with the extreme liberal policies of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Right? This is the senator from Pennsylvania who voted for sanctuary cities. Right? Voted to get rid of the border wall. Voted against Kate's law, which would allow us to take illegal immigrants who come back in the country and prosecute them as felons. This is a guy who's been endorsed by Indivisible Philadelphia, which is a defund the police group. This is a guy who voted for males being able to compete in women's sports. This guy's out of touch with Pennsylvania. So we need strong leadership to shake things up, to bring about change. That's what this race is about. And we've got to get the right leadership in place. And that's why I need your vote. And you know, sometimes I just want to tell you how optimistic I am about America. I just want you to know, we are in trouble. But I'm an optimist. And the reason I'm an optimist is this is the American story. We keep getting to the edge of the cliff and we pull ourselves back. Time and again, it happened in the Civil War, it happened in the Great Depression, it happened in World War II, happened in 1979. I was 14. Right? I remember we had stagflation. Inflation was 18%, and we were in a recession. You had to wait in line for gas, odd days and even days. You had to go on your day. Right? I remember sitting with my dad in the station wagon on our day, waiting in line to get gas. Iran had taken our hostages. Sound familiar? Right? And we thought we were losing the Cold War to the USSR in 1979, and 80% of us, Americans and Pennsylvanians, thought the country was headed in the wrong direction. Right? 1983, which by the way, the 80% is the same as today. That's what Americans think, we're going in the wrong direction. 1983, 4 years later, I'm a cadet at West Point, walking across that beautiful campus, right, and America's back. The economy's on fire, deregulation, pro-growth economic policies, a military buildup that ended the Cold War without firing a shot, peace through strength. 6 years later, there was morning in America. My hope, my prayer is a couple years from now, I'll be back in front of this group. President Trump will be in the White House. I'll be your senator from Pennsylvania. It'll be morning in America again. Morning in America again. So, I want to end by telling you how honored I am to be the nominee, how honored I would be to be your senator. I want to ask you, I know you're here as supporters, I want to ask you not only to vote, I want to ask you to go out and tell 10 people and 10 more people, not just Republicans, by the way. I'm running as a Republican, I'm a conservative, but I'm going to represent every single Pennsylvanian. And these problems, skyrocketing prices, the fentanyl crisis on the wide open border, the war on fossil fuels, crime, these are problems for every single Pennsylvanian. So I'm asking for your support, I'm asking for you to tell your friends, I'm asking you to put out signs, I'm asking you to say your prayers, because this election really matters, and I want to end telling you about wrestling, which is I wrestled in college, and if I could get into the third period in college, within a point or two, I'd always know I'd win. Because the third period in wrestling, not about wrestling. It's about mental toughness. It's about heart. It's about staying on offense every single second until the whistle blows. That's what I'm going to do for the next 6 days. That's what I need you to do. God bless you. God bless you.